This week on the Just Press Play pod, we have the gang back together. Well, minus one. LJ's not here, but we do get a special recording sent in from him and Hannah as they are honeymooning over in Hawaii and Colorado all week. But me and Pops joined to talk some best and worst, the Hogs disappointing into the College World Series, and then we get into some NBA with a special guest. So, Truth, hit the beat.
My God, Woodrow, don't I look ready?
All right, here we are. We're back. It's been a while, Pops. We haven't been on the airwaves in a little while. For a little housekeeping notes to let people know what happened last week. LJ got married. Hannah, the voice that you hear at the beginning, she's been on a podcast. If you go back and listen to it, it's a really good one. But Hannah and LJ got married last weekend in Chicago, and now they are on their honeymoon. They started out in Hawaii and then went to Denver. We're going to get a little check-in from them here in a little bit. But, yeah, a lot's happened in the Luthringer family, huh, Dad?
A lot has happened in the last couple of weeks, yes. We'll get into some of that as we go, I'm sure. But
we will. I just wanted to we're going to try to record when we were all in Chicago, but there's, as you can probably expect, there's a lot of stuff going on for LJ with his wedding coming, and so we never had time. Plus, we wanted to really enjoy our vacation. So, and it was a great weekend. The wedding was phenomenal. I mean, it was fun.
It was one of the best events I've ever attended, no doubt about it.
And so, with that being said, I want to go. A lot's happened. I mean, the NBA free agency started, and actually, it's been more entertaining than the finals was because the finals was just boring. And the NBA does seem to they've mastered that. They're relevant all the time. Like, the season's over, and they still are the top of every sports show.
I know. I've read some stuff I definitely want to talk to you about that has kind of blown my mind a little bit. And it's more the NBA free agency, but the draft, too. I mean, I'm excited about NBA.
Yeah, we haven't even got to talk about. So, I don't know if everyone knows, but I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this know that you're a Mavs fan, but I'm an avid Mavs fan. And we were sitting there in the car when the draft was going on. And I told you before, I was like, I'm hearing some stuff about Dallas maybe trading up for Doncic, who, if you remember a few podcasts before, Dad mentioned he loves Doncic and he thinks it'd be silly for Phoenix to go. You thought he should go number one overall.
I think arguably he was the number one pick overall. Yeah, it's hard to have argued against Ayton. I mean, DeAndre Ayton is an amazing player. It wasn't the same as Durant and Greg Oden. It wasn't that distinct to me, but I thought Doncic was the guy. And so, who got him, Kev?
And so we're sitting in the car, and I tell Dad the Mavs might trade up and get Doncic. And sure enough, the Mavs trade up. The Kings pass up on him, which we have a fun guest coming on here in a little bit, a Kings fan. And we're going to talk about what he thought about the Kings going Bagley over Doncic. But we'll get all into that in a minute. But just know that me and Pops were pretty pumped to see Doncic go to Dallas.
Absolutely.
But,
yeah, absolutely.
With that, let's go ahead and jump into the best and worst of the week. What's your best of the week, Dad?
Well, I mean, I have two best. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Of course he does. You know, hey, at least that means it's been a good week, though. So go for it.
It's been a good week. Yes, my very first best is LJ and Hannah's wedding. Like you said, it was an amazing event. Saw a lot of people I hadn't got to see in a while. It was so good to see so much of the family, and I thought that I don't want to bore all our listeners with it, but it was an amazing thing. If you missed it, I'm sorry. It was really cool.
It was the first wedding of the kids, and so it's the first of your kids, of our immediate family, and it was awesome. It was really cool.
It was awesome. The way they did it, in a theater, it was so cool. So that's my first best, and my second best is that my alma mater, University of Arkansas, was in the College World Series, and I'll be damned, they anyway, they were that's
speechless.
The best.
He can't even form a sentence.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was second best by far to LJ and Hannah's wedding. But
the most best was LJ and Hannah's wedding, but then
the most bestest was the wedding. That's right.
My best of the week would have to be. I saw this thing. So the other day, you probably won't know who he is, Dad. A guy named Alan Crabb who plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Do you remember back in 2016 when in the NBA, the cap went way up, and all these guys were getting just tons of money. And you saw these role players who were kind of young, but still they probably didn't deserve it, get just $70 and $80 million, and it was nuts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, Allen Crabbe's one of those guys. He's good, but he had, like, when he was 23 and back in 2016, he averaged 10 points and 4 rebounds, shooting 40% from three. And he's a long wing, like, the game loves wings right now. And he cashed out. He got paid a 4-year, like $75 million contract. And a lot of people made fun of it. But what was really cool is this past weekend, his old high school, the Frederick K.C. Price Christian School, it's actually his grandfather helped found it, but it was about to have to shut down because they didn't have enough money and they were looking for donations and couldn't get.
What's this guy's name? Tell me the guy's name.
Allen Crabbe.
Okay, all right.
And he put down a substantial 6-figure check that is going to allow the school to stay open for at least the next decade. So I mean, it was super cool to see a guy. We made fun of all the money these NBA players, but I think, if you really dig deep, there's a lot of these athletes doing really, really cool things. I know Durant does a lot of things for public schools, even back in Oklahoma City still. And LeBron has like a scholarship set up to get kids to college. I mean, these NBA players do a lot of cool things with their money. And when I saw that Allen Crabbe thing, I thought that was really cool. That
reminds me of what's the saying? To whom much is given, much is required. And so shout out to these guys. They don't have to do this. But I do think there's some obligation to give back, and I'm proud to see these people that have been given so much are giving some back. That's cool.
Well, and it just in general in athletics, like in pro sports, we often hear more about the bad stuff that goes on, like when someone does something wrong, like with what's going on with Jameis Winston. If you've heard any of that, just in general, you hear more about the negative, and and we go, these guys get paid millions of dollars to play a sport and blah blah blah. But there's a lot of guys and women out there that do really, really cool things. And I just want to shine a little light on Allen Crabbe because it kind of went under the radar, and it was a cool deal.
Good deal.
So with that being said, Dad, do you have – let's go to your worst. It might have something to do with one of your best. I don't know.
Yeah, well, both have to do with my best. I have 2 worst, and they both have to do with my best.
You have 2 worst too? Yes. Okay.
So I want to –
well, since we weren't on last week, you had to double up.
We weren't on last week, and I'm kind of into symmetry. 2 best, 2 worst. I mean, I want to keep everything equal. So
all right.
Okay, so one of my first worst was driving to LJ and Hannah's wedding.
Yes, okay, I'm glad you brought it up.
And so I'm going to get into this just a little bit. Sorry, listeners, bear with me, but it's crazy. So we're driving, and my sister calls me, Christy, cool Aunt Christy's behind me with you, by the way. You're in the car with her.
Yeah.
And she calls me.
I was napping. I woke up to her calling.
You're napping. She calls me and goes, my check my tire light just came on. What should I, what do we do? And I said, I think we're cool. We'll just stop at the next fuel station and we'll check the air, blah, blah, blah. And about as soon as I hang up, I look back and she's pulling over to the side of the road and I see something black kind of rolling. I don't know what all that is.
Yeah.
Anyway, we happen to be at a place where we can't turn around for like 3 miles. It's just one of
it seemed like it took y'all forever to get back.
In the middle of nowhere, and there was no even like median crossing. Just couldn't get. Anyway, finally get back around. I mean, you and Christy had a blowout par. I mean, just an amazing. There was no tire left. The rim was all that was left.
So, just to give you a little perspective of from inside the car, I'm sitting there like we said, I was napping, and Christy called you, and I woke up to Christy saying, "Hey, my tire pressure monitor thing went off. Right. It doesn't seem serious, but we probably should do something."
Right.
And you're like, "Yeah, we'll stop and check it." And then, as you had said, as soon as she pressed the end button, we feel a bump. It wasn't even that crazy of a bump, and I look in my rearview mirror, and it looks as if the whole tire is rolling behind us. Like I see a tire rolling, and so we pull over. Completely blown. I mean, the tire's gone. It's just a rim. Like Christy said, what's back there? I said, nothing. It's a rim. That's all that's back here.
So, but all right, I don't want to go too long on this. But anyway, we put on the spare. We get it changed. We stop at a place and we only get a used tire, but it was a pretty decent used tire. Anyway, get back on the road. And about the time we get on the road, the bottom falls out of the sky.
Oh, I mean, a monsoon hits and we drive through it.
Freaking soon hits and doesn't let up until Chicago at about 2 a.m. I mean, this was still daylight. We were at Neosho, Missouri, getting the tire fixed. And, I mean, we drove in buckets of rain.
I'm telling you, we went 35 through rain for about 2.5 hours.
And
for the 2.5 hours we weren't going 35, we were up going speed limit, but it was still pouring ass rain.
Well, and at that time too, I think it was all us guys riding together, and Christy and Tammy in the car behind us. And it was raining so hard we couldn't tell if they were still behind us, and we would get nervous and we'd have to call them like every few minutes. Is that y'all? Put your flashers on. Let me know that y'all. It was just, oh man.
So not only is a 10-hour road trip I like road trips.
I do
actually.
too.
I think they're kind of fun. I don't want to do them all the time. It can get old, but I like a good road trip. But a 10-hour road trip when you go a blown tire in the first hour and a half
and a monsoon in the next 8 hours. Okay, well, that's just one of my
We did get to Chicago, and Chicago was awesome.
Chicago was awesome.
Go to your – that was your first worst,
yes.
So let's hear the next one.
And as the first worst was related to the first best, the second worst will also be related to the second best.
Because you're into symmetry.
I'm into symmetry, and – I mentioned that. Did I mention that the Razorbacks were in the College World Series final?
I think I heard you say that. Yeah, I think I heard that.
I think I mentioned that on one of the best. So, game 2, it's 2 outs. Oregon State pops up. It's behind first base.
Wait. Game 2, 2 outs, top of the ninth.
Top of the ninth.
And the Hogs are up.
This is
It's over.
The game. We catch this ball. It's over. We're world champs. We're College World Series national champs. There's no team I like better than the University of Arkansas. I might even get into that. But anyway, and we don't catch the ball. Let's just leave it at that.
Three guys are around it, and no one catches it.
And no one catches the ball. And I can't then I'm in a fog. I can't remember. They get a base hit. Somebody else comes up, knocks a home run. We get up. It's 3 up, 3 down. Game over. I can't sleep all night long. I mean, I'm serious. All night I'm replaying that in my head. I can only imagine what Shaddy and
Carson Shaddy
and some of the other guys. Gates, Jackson. Anyway.
Dave Van Horn,
bless his heart, and we'll get into some of that. But that was my worst. It's like we were that close to being College World Series and NCAA champs.
For those of you who don't know, and we'll get into it further, but if that wasn't bad enough, that wasn't it. We still had another shot. That would have sealed it because it was a best of 3, and we won game 1. So that would have sealed it. But it's all good. Gather your bearings, and game 3 was the next day.
We have Isaiah Campbell going. He's solid. Go ahead.
The Razorbacks ran up against a guy making a historic performance, and needless to say, the Hogs have still never won a national championship in baseball.
Yeah.
So. But did you see? Let's shine a little light on Arkansas. Did you see who won the national championship for cornhole? University of Arkansas. It was on ESPN yesterday. Swear, I'm not making this up.
Oh my! Oh hell yes!
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we got something to look at, but.
Okay, we went Bago game, right?
Is it Bago or is it cornhole?
Still don't like that name.
Is it Bago or is it cornhole?
Obviously it's
trivia.
Cornhole. That's what everybody calls it. It's what everybody calls it. I would prefer it be called something different. I just don't like that name, but whatever.
So my worst, Dad, I don't know if you caught this, but Toys R Us closed down 100% this week.
I did catch that.
I can't tell you the last time I've been in a Toys R Us, but there's some good memories in a Toys R Us. I'm telling you, when I remember, like, I would go in with Mom one time specifically, and my memory could be a little shady, but
could be.
We went in, and Mom was like, "You get to pick one toy," and that's part of the fun was you go and you just look and you get to look at 20 toys. She would let me. It was kind of like she was like watching me, so I went with her while she shopped, and then we got to go to Toys R Us, and she just let me just peruse, and finally I get to pick just one. But I just remember that was so much fun. I guess that's what women have when they go shopping.
Yeah.
Why they can have fun, because I had such a blast just looking at all the possible toys.
Well, yeah.
And then
I was going to say, it's like, I'm not into shopping like for that, but like take me to an athletic shoe store. Dude, I could spend some time up in an athletic shoe store.
And some money.
Some money, dude. Yeah. If it's shopping in something I really like, I can do it. Like you at Toys R Us at probably, 5 years old? I don't know.
I do remember we went to Toys R Us, me and Mom did, when Blitz 2001 came out in N64. And we had to go get some Blitz so we could play, me, you, and LJ. And I think Bob would come over and play with us some Blitz.
Yeah.
I know I played a lot more Madden with Bob, but I believe Bob came over and played some Blitz with us too and beat my ass.
You used to pout up too. When Bob would beat your ass, you'd pout up bad. It was hilarious.
But, so we went to Toys R Us and we went to go get Blitz and they didn't have it. And I was heartbroken. And Mom went to the cashier and was like, is there any way you have any Blitz 2001 available? And the guy went back to the back, and they had one left. We bought it, came back, and played it. And you let us hook up the N64 to the living room TV.
Yeah.
Yep, and the big TV, and me, you, and LJ played for hours. So my worst is not only is it closing, but there's a picture, and I'll post it in our show notes, but there's a picture of Jeffrey the Giraffe, who's the mascot of Toys R Us. And it's just him in an empty store with empty shelves.
Oh.
And it's all closed. And he's got a suitcase. And it says Jeffrey Giraffe is packed up for his final day. And then there's even a sign that they made that says, I guess everyone has grown up. There's no more Toys R Us kids. And it was like, golly, the heartstrings, you're pulling them.
They should have done that before they closed. Said, come back. He's lonely or something. Man.
And then Toys R Us, they sent out a promise, or they sent out a statement that they made, a heartfelt farewell, and I'll read a little bit of it to you. It says, thanks to each of you who shared your amazing journey to and through parenthood with us, and to every grandparent, aunt, uncle, brother, and sister who's built a couch cushion rocket ship, made up a hero adventure, or invented something gooey. Promise us just one thing. Don't ever grow up. Play on. Golly, I'm talking about. Yeah. They're really hitting me in my feels.
Man. Now I'm even more sad about it.
Yeah. And the worst part is, I always had a dream that one day I was gonna get picked to be one of those people that gets the shopping cart or the buggy and has 10 minutes, and you just put as much as you can fill in the buggy and just run around and fill as much as you can. I always in the back of my mind had that dream that maybe one day it'll happen, and now Toys R Us is closed. So I won't.
Oh, and in your dream when that happened, you were at Toys R Us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, even grown up, like 20 years old in Toys R Us, just throwing stuff in, getting my Dragon Ball Z characters, my Power Rangers, everything in there.
I'm probably at that gearhead shop or something. I want tennis shoes and shorts and stuff like that.
But that'll do for our best and worst. What we're going to do is we'll transition over to LJ and Hannah send us over from beautiful Alma, Colorado. They are actually above sea level right now, which they'll tell you in a little bit. It's really cool, but it also makes breathing a little bit tougher.
Air is rare.
Yeah. But it's really cool. They sent us. They gave us a best and worst. You'll figure out pretty quick. It's hard to come up with the worst when they're on an amazing honeymoon. But they talk about their Hawaii trip and Colorado trip. It's really cool. So take a listen.
We're in beautiful Colorado on our honeymoon, and we thought we'd give you a little update of how we're doing with our best and the worst. If you hear cars or birds or wind, I don't care. This is my honeymoon, so I'm not going to soundproof a building, but we're in a beautiful cabin. So
in Alma, Colorado.
Yeah, it's 2 miles above sea level, which is pretty neat. And also, we're breathing a lot heavier.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Feel like a wuss. But Hannah, what's your best of the week?
So my best of the week, we came from Kauai, from the first part of our honeymoon, and I think I have two from there. So my first one is we learned a lot about Hawaiian culture and we learned a lot of the language, and so we've been pronouncing everything.
I was going to say
Hawaiian, and that's probably one of my best.
Yeah, I was going to say I fell in love with the Hawaiian language while we were there, and learning a lot. Learning that we totally misuse aloha. It's such a beautiful word that we just use to say hello and goodbye to tourists, but it's a really beautiful word, and if you want to know more, it's really easy to look up, but it's just gorgeous.
There's just so much culture and pride in their land, and it was really cool to see
and
that
it's
and
just
feel that.
Beautiful to read the language too. It's just fun to once you've learned kind of how to read it. You don't know what any of it means, but it's just fun to say. It's powerful, it's soft, it's pleasant, it's nice.
It sounds badass when you read it correctly.
It's a lot like the ocean, it's really cool.
Oh, that's nice.
They've really kind of nailed their culture and their language.
It's true.
And I'm glad that they still use it too. That was exciting to find out. I assumed it was just a few words get used every now and then. We were right by a church that does services in completely Hawaiian, which is super cool. So that's one of mine. So I'm totally with you. What's your other best of the week? Maybe I have the exact same one again.
My other best of the week is snorkeling at Poipu Beach. Or no. What's the other beach? Lawai Beach, not Poipu.
But Poipu was great.
Yeah, Poipu was great. But we snorkeled together at Lawai Beach and saw like 50 different types of fish,
Tons.
like different colors. You just look down there and there's like, and I'd never been snorkeling before.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
And that beach was just gorgeous too. It was just a beautiful place to hang out.
Yeah, but it was
beautiful.
Getting
out there was a pain. Yeah, you got to you're either sitting in the water or you're swimming all the way out.
And
for
the
sure.
sand was everywhere. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. I love getting with nature, and I was excited to be. The fish just swam around you like.
What is it with the fish? They loved me more than most people, right?
I think it was your swimsuit. That's
you
what
think so?
You had a black and white striped swimsuit, which looked a lot like the coral and the other fish. And I think they just were like, "Oh, this guy's cool because he looks like us."
Because I'd look down and there'd be like 20 swimming in circles around me.
All I had to do was follow LJ around, and I would see fish everywhere.
Yeah, that was fun. I'd say my best was we went up to the Waimea Canyon, and if you've ever seen Jurassic Park or any movie that was filmed in Kauai, which there are a lot of them, look them up. Pan, Pirates of the Caribbean, Hook, not Pan. Pirates of the Caribbean, all sorts of things. But anyway, we were up there, and it just felt like we were in another world. It felt special. The elevation was really cool. It was like a third of where we are now, but it's totally different situation. It's just gorgeous. Not to take away from the Colorado landscape, because it's also gorgeous.
We got here 2 days ago.
Yeah,
it's been beautiful.
And every time this whole trip, every time we've seen a place to stop, we stop and take pictures. It's just so gorgeous. I just love. We've had the beauty of the world tour, like the planet, and it's been great.
It's been wonderful.
Hey Hannah, do you have a worst of the week?
Yeah, I mean, actually, our week's been really, really good. But
it's hard to have a worst with a week like this.
Well, I guess my only thing would be the altitude sickness is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I've been feeling it this week, the last couple days. Kind of feel like there's an elephant sitting on your chest all the time.
Yeah.
So, and I already feel like that anyway.
Yeah.
but that's not even that bad.
Yeah.
But that is something like we were renting a little Airbnb, and it's 2-story, and so the bathroom's on one floor and like the hangout area's on the other floor.
Yeah.
So every time I have to pee, I like go down to the other.
Which is every 15 minutes. You should all know.
Yeah, which is very often. Well, I've been drinking a lot of water, which is good, which is what you're supposed to do for altitude sickness, but. Then I'd get winded walking up and down the stairs.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's my worst, but it's still not that bad.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's yours?
Mine was, and I think you'll agree with me, the flight from Hawaii to Colorado. We thought we'd save some money and not have to get a hotel for one night by sleeping in the plane. And so Delta Airlines became our hotel for the night.
That was horrible.
Yeah, that was really bad. The seats were really tight. They gave you a pillow, but it was like nothing, which, like, I'm not like saying they need to, I didn't pay for first class. I get that.
No.
We are the cattle, but it was like that. I don't sleep on moving vehicles very well. And so sleeping on that plane,
wasn't very comfortable at all.
I woke up the next day, like a whole 24 hours later, still sore from the plane.
Yeah.
And we had to take an entire day. We got into Denver at like 2:00 in the afternoon because we lost hours flying east. I mean, and so we got in at like 2:17, and then that whole day was just wasted. We spent 2 hours getting to our Airbnb, and then so that whole day was just like one day that we just totally lost.
Yeah.
But then we woke up the next morning, felt great, drove around, went and looked at Breckenridge, and so it all worked out pretty well. So
everything's been super
my worst
chill and
is
relaxed.
Not that bad.
Well, that's what I say. Yeah, it's not. I don't think our worst could be very bad. We've had a very good week, and everything I do, I've narrowed it down to 2 best, but I had a lot of good things happen. Like even just when we step off the plane, anywhere we go, even on the plane, anywhere we go, we've been meeting really cool people and talking to really cool people and doing really cool things.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, so that was LJ and Hannah up in Alma, Colorado. And so, Dad, while we've been, working, slaving, putting the podcast on our backs, they're they're out there.
We're working like mules, over here.
And they're out there snorkeling in Hawaii and complaining that the air's a little thin. I mean, good Lord.
Blah, 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 blah.
No, but they've been putting some stuff on like Snapchat and sending pictures and then listening to that. It sounds really cool. I'm so jealous of him. LJ actually texted me I think it was last week sometime or earlier this week, and he said that we should all do a trip sometime to Hawaii or Colorado, either one. He was like, it's just so cool, and you kind of get away from everything, and I'm super jealous of him.
No, now, but I'm happy. I'm tickled to death. I think they're having a good time.
Oh yeah, and it's working out pretty well for me because I'm a big dog guy, and I don't have a dog because the responsibility of having a dog, I can't like go home or go back to Texarkana whenever I want, or just get up and leave. But so while they've been on their honeymoon, I've been watching their dog Pocket, and it's been so cool. I probably should have mentioned my best. There's not a much better feeling than when I get out of my truck and I lock it and it honks. As I'm getting ready to put the keys in, I hear Pocket's, her collar starts rattling, and she's all excited. And then I open up the door, and she's just pumped to see me. I'm telling you, that's one of the coolest things is when the dog is just so happy.
Well, you know what's perfect about this is you get to give the dog back in a couple of days. So
right? It's just it's just like with like grandkids. They're so awesome because you can give them back when it's time to have a responsibility. And
grandkids, be thinking about that,
which I guess could be coming sometime. Anyway,
you never know.
Now let's get over to some NBA talk with the free agency getting underway this past weekend and the draft happened about a week and a half ago. So if you're not really into the NBA, then you may skip ahead through this. But if you are, then pour you a nice glass of Malort and just let it roll. So let's get into it. We mentioned off the top, Dad, the draft, the NBA draft. What you got? Just give me your biggest takeaway, and it's probably Luka Doncic. But
well, yeah, I mean, I think you're probably going to talk about that, but as you alluded to, we were talking about the draft going up, and when Ayton went first, which was no surprise there.
It seemed for about a month, it seemed like it was a lock that Ayton was going first.
And you can argue him going first easily. I don't think they did wrong.
I agree with you. First. I think Doncic is the best player, but if you end up if Ayton is what he looks like he could be, which is a big guy, he's a big, strong forward, 7 foot,
NBA
has a little bit of a stroke.
Right now. Yeah, he's got a stroke.
If he turns it, you have the best big man in the NBA. Maybe you kind of shift it from someone's got to guard your big man. So I get it. I do get it, but
I get that.
Go ahead.
Now, I was a little shocked about Bagley going second. I think he's a good player. I think that you could argue that Wendell Carter might have been. I don't know if he would have gone above Bagley, but still, there was an argument of who might have been better.
Who was better on their own team at Duke?
Right at Duke. I'm talking about the two Duke forwards.
Yeah.
But then Doncic, I think we were pleasantly surprised to see Doncic is available at 3, and Dallas works out that trade with Atlanta, and I actually thought Trae Young going at 5 is a little too early. Personally,
who's he going to guard? I don't. In today's game, if you remember watching the playoffs, all NBA teams are doing right now is they set a pick and they get the matchups they want. I just don't know. Even if it's a point guard, Trae Young is so tiny. I know he'll get bigger, but
so, here's what gets me though. Trae Young is saying, "I'm going to show y'all how I can play defense." Why didn't you show us last year in college? Because
it'd have been nice in Oklahoma.
You're not going to see a point guard that's any less talented than anybody you saw in college. I mean, they're just better now, Mr. Young. And so if you had trouble playing defense on point guards in the Big Ten, wait till you get to the NB freaking A, dude. And and I like Trae Young, and I want him. I like his game. He's fun to watch. I'm rooting for him, but don't tell me you're going to work on. That's like Michael or Des Bryant going to work on his routes now. What?
When he's 30 years old, 10 years into the come on. What?
I guess Trae Young is about 8 to 10 years ahead of Des, so I'll give him that. But I don't know. I just thought that was funny. I'm going to show you how good a defensive player I am. Well, what the hell have you been doing?
I'm just with you. I just think that he's so skinny and so small. I just don't know. I do. His offense is he gets compared to Steph Curry a lot, and I do get the comparison. But can we remember that Steph Curry changed the way NBA is played? Like, those are huge shoes to fill if you're saying he's going to be Steph Curry. I mean, if he's like 50% of Steph Curry, he might even be worth that 5th pick. But
he might be. But to be fair, Trae Young's game does look a lot like Steph Curry's did at that point in his career, and I mean, Trae Young's got his ceiling is high. So I thought him going at 5 was a little quick. And then I was looking. So Bamba went next to Orlando. Wendell Carter, who we discussed, to Chicago.
Who now
Knox,
with Bamba
Bridges.
going to Orlando? Did you see he's wearing number 5? So we got Bamba number 5. You know, kind of like the old song.
Oh God! Seriously, is he really wearing number 5? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Good for him. Couple of other things though. Towards the end of the first round or middle to end, I saw Michael Porter went to 14.
He dropped way down.
He dropped way down. Went to Denver.
It was getting rumored that he might go second overall to the Kings, and he ended up down at And now 14. He might miss the whole year.
Yeah, not high.
Backs are scary.
DiVincenzo, that was the redhead guy, right? That was. I thought he was a freshman.
DiVincenzo.
Did he declare? I didn't know he declared for the draft.
I thought he was coming back too to Villanova, but I guess he declared, and he got drafted. Who got
17
him?
to Milwaukee. Milwaukee got him.
I thought I was hearing rumors that the Spurs were going to go for him, and I thought, oh wow, that is perfect. He's going to fit so well in with the Spurs. But I love his game. I think he's awesome.
I do too. I think I would like to have seen him play it of the year in college, And then lastly, I saw Grayson Allen did sneak in the first round. I mean, at number 21. I guess it's not a sneak in
to Utah.
But, to Utah.
Does anyone seem like, I don't know why, but Grayson Allen just seems like the perfect Utah Jazz player. I don't know, his face, just the way he is. Probably because he's a white guy and I'm thinking of Stockton, and I don't know. Grayson Allen just seems like Jazz written all over him. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, who was Gordon Hayward?
Yeah, it just is perfect.
White guy, you're going to Utah. That's what's up.
But so I wanted to get into. Did you have anything else you wanted to point out?
No, I did want to. That was the draft. I mean, I had a little bit of free agency stuff, but I want to
rattle back to the draft real quick and just kind of
sure.
So yeah, I'm with you. I think Doncic is the best player in the draft, and for the Mavs to get who I think is, if not the best, has the potential to be the best player in the draft. I am stoked. I mean, I'm so pumped about it. And they only gave up one first round pick. I thought they would have to give up, empty the cupboards. I thought they'd have to give everything up for him. But
yeah.
I get, like we mentioned, I get Phoenix because they have Devin Booker and they have a ball handler. And Doncic is a ball handler, so you go pair Devin Booker up with a big man. It kind of, I mean, this is wishful thinking, but maybe you get a Devin Booker who's a scorer like a young Kobe and a Shaq like Ayton. I don't know. I get the pairing of get a dominant big with a dominant ball player. And then I actually, at first, I didn't get the Kings, but I kind of do a little bit if they are big into De'Aaron Fox, which I know you like De'Aaron Fox back in Kentucky. And
that's true. You're right.
We missed him a little bit last year because the Kings, I don't know if they ever played a national TV game, but he had a decent rookie year. And if you're into De'Aaron Fox and you're wanting to build on him, if you go get Doncic, both those guys kind of produce with the ball in their hands. They create with the ball in their hand. And Bagley's a guy, I think Bagley does pair really well with De'Aaron Fox. I mean, they're going to pick and roll. He can slash, he can shoot, he can pop. I mean, it does fit their roster.
That is a good point. You're right. It really fits their roster well. I agree with you.
So I kind of get them passing up. And Bagley does have a ton of potential. I watch a ton of Duke because I'm a Duke fan. And there was just games where I remember watching Bagley and it seemed like he didn't give it his all. And that just really turns me off in a player. I want you to, even if you're losing, I want you to go 100% all the time, whether it's offense. Bagley just seemed like the guy, he'd kind of, go for a layup and, he rolled his ankle, but as soon as they get and he'd stay on the offensive end, as soon as they get the rebound, he's fine, It just seems like he wasn't ready to do the dirty work. But he's also 18 years old, so, I mean, a lot can change.
Right.
But, and then the Hawks, that's where I thought, I agree with you. I don't get.
What do the Hawks have? Why would they not?
Well, so here's what they're doing is I can't remember his name right now, but he was the guy that came up with he's the guy that came up with the Warriors, and he's actually the person kind of credited for drafting Draymond Green as their new GM. He's really good at the draft, and it looks like what he's doing in Atlanta is he's trying to build like a Warriors light. And he went and drafted Trae Young, who is, compared to Steph Curry.
Steph Curry. And
then they got Kevin Huerter. I don't know exactly how to spell his name or how to pronounce his name, but he's kind of compared to they got him at number 19, and he's compared a lot to Klay Thompson. He's probably the best catch and shoot player in the draft. And then in the second round, at the last pick of the first round, they got Spellman. You remember Spellman from Villanova?
Yeah.
He needs to work on his body a little bit. Like he looked like he could chisel up a little bit, and probably when he's working out all the time in NBA and playing basketball for a living, he'll do that. But he's a guy that he was really good, could stretch the floor as a big man, a little bit like Draymond Green does. And I get what they're doing, and they're just going all in on that Warriors thing, and that's why they went Trae Young. But I'm with you. I just think Doncic could be a franchise-changing player, and he may not be. I think his floor is like a Hedo Turkoglu at the Magic, and his ceiling is a superstar. And I think that's if you're Dallas, you're willing to trade that for someone with that kind of ceiling. And really, that's a pretty solid floor. Like, I know Hedo Turkoglu is not going to go into the Hall of Fame, and people aren't going to be talking about him.
No, but he's a solid ball player.
And then I love the fit. I love the fit of Doncic with Dirk, kind of Dirk being the young guy that came from overseas and kind of to help Doncic get acclimated to the U.S. lifestyle.
How does he work with Smith Jr.? I mean, Smith Jr. is a ball in his hands kind of guy, right?
I love it because Dennis Smith Jr., he kind of reminds me of –
Is he a 2?
He's a 1. No, he's a 1, but he reminds me of a Derrick Rose kind of, where he's a point guard, but he's kind of a score first as opposed to like a Rondo who's going to create for everybody. And Doncic is really good at creating. And kind of like what you watched with the Rockets this past year. At every point, there's going to be no point that you'll watch the Mavericks unless they're blowout or whatever. But at every point, there's going to be either Smith or Doncic or both on the floor. So you got a guy that can run the offense. And Doncic is I think his 3-point shot, which is not bad, it's like 35%. But when he really gets time he's been playing nonstop. When he gets time to just work on his shot with, by the way, Dirk, who really fixed his shot, and Dirk's shooting coach, who obviously has helped him out. So I just think the pairing's really, really good. And then the Mavs signed, and this will kind of get us into free agency, but the Mavs signed DeAndre Jordan, who
that is a done deal, you said.
Well,
right?
It's an agreement. The contract's not signed, but it's an agreement.
It's going to happen. Okay.
And so I like the fit because you end up with you got the Mavericks now have Dennis Smith Jr. They have Wesley Matthews at the 2, who may or may not get traded. I'm not sure. Doncic probably at the 3 or Barnes at the 3, and you kind of play. I think they're actually going to bring Dirk off the bench. And because Dirk,
probably
because you end up with a team that can now everybody can shoot, and then you end up with the rim protector and DeAndre Jordan, and that's Dirk. I don't think Dirk. He's now just a guy that really stretches the floor as a 4 and can rebound a little bit. But I mean, I don't know how old he is. Probably 38. His best days are far behind him. So I think this works out perfectly for him.
He can still give you, 15, 18 good minutes.
Well, I think that's where you get Dirk's best is you don't ask for him to give you 25, 30. You try to get 15, and they're 15 good minutes instead of 25.
Right. Hey, I do want to ask you one thing on the free agency. I know you're going to get into some more basketball perhaps later with the guest. But Chris Paul, so I see he signed a 4-year, $160 million max deal. Is he guaranteed that money? Is he?
He is, yeah.
I mean, he's how old is Chris Paul?
They actually made a concession. So when Chris Paul, he demanded his trade from the Clippers and forced his way to the Rockets, there was kind of a wink in that because it didn't behoove Chris Paul money-wise.
He could have got that. Yeah, you're right.
So it didn't behoove him to do that. And so there was a wink, shake hands. When I go up on this 1-year deal, you're going to max me. And so everyone was wondering, and me and you, we've talked about this before, but if you're the Rockets, can you really give him the 5-year, $200 million max? I mean, that's for a guy that we just saw him. He couldn't finish the playoffs here. I love Chris Paul, but he wasn't able to play in Game 6 and 7 because he got hurt, and he got hurt.
That may have been the difference. That was the difference in them winning.
Yeah, I think I don't know for sure if they win, but I put my money on them. If they go into game, they just need to win one of the two with Chris Paul. They have a good shot.
And what I'm saying is, if they win, whoever comes out of the West wins the title. I do believe that. I agree. So they were that close.
So what they did
Chris
was
Paul couldn't go.
So what they and they gave. I don't think Daryl Morey really wanted to give him the max deal. Like he's a smart guy. He understands a point guard who's 33 already has a little bit of injury history. It probably doesn't make the smartest thing to give him a max deal, but I think they made an agreement. That was part of the deal when Chris Paul said, "I'll demand a trade and make my way to y'all." And so they didn't give him – they gave him the max, but they didn't do the 5th year. So it kind of was the Rockets said, here's your max, but can we not do the 5th? And they came to an agreement, and it worked out. And Chris Paul, I understand him doing it because they like we just said, they were a hamstring away from winning the Western Conference and beating the Warriors.
But he's guaranteed that's a guaranteed
yeah,
contract?
the way the NBA works is it's guaranteed, yeah.
They can't cut him in 2 years.
Well, they can, but they got to pay him out. I mean, they can buy him out. And
Okay.
it's just like it's like Melo just opted in at the Thunder, and the Thunder can buy him out and get him off their roster, but he's going to get his $28 million unless he agrees not to.
So, okay, I'm sorry. Melo did opt in with
to $28 million. Yeah, to $28 million.
And I saw Paul George re-signed for a year.
Yeah, no, he signed a 4-year max deal.
He did a 4-year.
And he never even met with LA. I mean, it was just wild that Sam Presti took – it was some balls to go trade for him and not knowing if he would sign long-term, and it worked out. He signed long-term. It was surprising.
Well, I mean, I think that takes him effectively out. I mean, LeBron's not going to Oklahoma City. There's just
I've heard
way.
people say maybe there's no way they don't. I want to show you.
He's not
Real quick. The Thunder. So do you remember? Obviously, you remember they traded James Harden, and the reason they traded him because as they didn't want to give him the max contract that he wanted, because that would make them pay an extra $45 million in luxury tax, and they're a small market team, and they didn't want to go deep into the luxury tax. Well, now after Melo has opted in for $28 million, they have they have Russell Westbrook and Paul George now on the books for this year for at least $70 million, and they have Jeremy Grant, who they just signed for $10 million. That's $100 million with just 4 guys. Oh, and Steven Adams. So they have Steven Adams and those 4. They're above the cap already with just those, and now they'll pay. If they don't cut anybody from here on, they'll have to pay a luxury tax bill of $130 million. So 4 years ago they wouldn't pay 45, but now they'll pay 130 for who they got. Wouldn't you rather have Westbrook, Harden, and Durant?
I'd rather have James Harden. Those 3. I mean, that would have been what a super team.
I think Sam Presti and that ownership learned their lesson, and they were like, "Wow,
yeah,
we should have paid the luxury tax then, and now we're going to pay it for." Like
they're going to pay an extra 40 instead of 40 million, 130,
almost extra.
So 90 million.
Yeah, I mean, and $90 million. Honestly, I think the best option for them would have been probably Paul George leaves and they have to blow it up and trade Westbrook and try to, because this team, even with Paul George coming back, sorry Ryan if you're listening to this because he's a big Thunder fan, even with Paul George coming back, you've got to be happy, but they're not beating the Warriors, are they?
No.
So you're and now
if Ryan wants to put a bet on that, I'll cover.
So
bring it on, Ryan.
Actually, that just reminded me. I think me and Ryan had a bet last year for the finals. He said I'm gonna have to bring that up at the river this weekend.
All right. Sorry about that, Ryan. Okay.
So, but that we'll get in, and then now I want to get into some more free agency talk, and we're gonna get deep into it right now. And we got a Kings fan coming on with me. I got Brock joining me right now. So let's kick it over to the interview.
Let it ride.
So now we have our guest joining us. Brock Yates is joining us, and it's a good thing we waited till we're recording this now. It's close to 11 on Sunday, and it's a good thing we waited until Sunday night because LeBron he's actually made it official. He signed with the Lakers. What's your first reaction to LeBron wearing the purple and gold?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Initial thoughts are I'm pretty bummed out because I hate the Lakers, and LeBron's my favorite player ever. So seeing LeBron go there, we've kind of known it was going to be happening for a while, or at least a lot of people assumed. But to kind of see it unfold like that is just a little disappointing. But, LeBron's got a lot of stuff he's trying to do outside of basketball, and I guess that's the place to do it. So,
yeah, I mean, all the signs have been pointing to it for a while. Like, the whole apparently Mav Carter met with Magic and Rob Pelinka a year ago, and then the next day they traded Russell and Mozgov to get rid of those contracts.
And then the thing I read today was that, at the trade deadline last year when they got Larry Nance and they got Clarkson, that was just all a big ploy for LeBron to get those bad contracts out of there, get Clarkson's bad contract out of there.
Now that
to kind of clear space for him.
If that really was like
interesting.
I did like my conspiracy theory went off there, and I went down the internet and just started Googling stuff, and like all the people are like, this might have been LeBron's final FU.
This isn't even the big news that we should be talking about with the Lakers.
What's the big news?
They just signed Lance Stevenson also.
And JaVale McGee.
But Lance, LeBron's arch nemesis, Mr. Blow in the Ear Lance, after all these years, they're going to team up in LA together.
I saw that come like 30 minutes after, or an hour after LeBron news, it said Lance Stevenson signed. I was like, oh my God, you cannot make this.
It's so perfect.
But So I wanted to get with LeBron going to the Lakers. I think actually, like I know Cavs fans were distraught back in 2010 when he left for Miami, but he actually left the Cavs in a worse spot now than he did back then.
Yeah, I guess technically with the contracts, and he got all of his boys paid and all of that, and they're kind of screwed right now.
Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith that money.
Yeah. But at the same time, he also got him a championship this time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you traded all for a championship.
Oh my gosh! If I'm a Cleveland fan, I'm not going to complain about anything for the next 20, 25 years or so.
Well, I mean, when was the last time they got a championship before LeBron? Wasn't it like the 70s or something? Just the entire city, not just basketball.
Plus, they're all Browns fans, so they're used to this. You know, they got a championship. They'll build a statue of LeBron, and they'll move on now. It'll be fine.
I just wonder how, because I was looking at, and you mentioned it, but so with signing these 1-and-1s, they basically tried to give up. I mean, at trade deadlines every year, they don't even have their first round pick next year. They traded that to Atlanta for Kyle Korver.
Yep.
And then they're
in a bad spot.
Took on
if
Jordan
you go back,
Clarkson.
if you go through and look at their team and look at their contracts, they're in a real bad spot right now. But I guess they got Jeff Green and Jordan Clarkson and J.R. Smith leading the troops now. So.
Yeah, and they better just hope Colin Sexton is the truth. They're probably just going to tank it out, go ahead and trade Kevin Love for whatever they can.
They should. They should trade Love and try to get as many assets as they can and just kind of move on now.
Looking back at it, do you think Paul George is regretting his decision to stay in OKC a little bit?
No, I don't believe for a second that he was already going to do this if whether LeBron was going to do his thing or not. He could have just waited out LeBron and to see what LeBron was going to do. But I think LeBron's known about this for a long time, and I'm sure he's talked to Paul George about it. And, if everything from what I've read about Paul George is that, he actually does really feel like he left some things on the table in OKC, and apparently him and Westbrook are really tied off the court. And so, and plus he got more money for staying in OKC than he would have for leaving for LA anyway. So
I think and I've actually seen some more on it now. I was wondering why he would sign a 4-year deal with OKC, because the one thing OKC had over LA is they could offer that 5th year for the $40 million. But apparently, Woj tweeted out. Woj has been just on fire, just dropping bombs left and right.
Except he did not get the LeBron scoop. Obviously he's been on it for a long time.
Was it Shams or who was it?
Some dude named Withers. I saw, because I was waiting for the Woj bomb and or Shams to come through, and it was some guy named Withers with the scoop out of nowhere.
Well, he did come.
But I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying about Paul George. If I was that good, I'd probably just be signing 1-and-1s the whole time, instead of these 4-year deals. I was actually surprised LeBron even took the 4-year deal instead of just doing another 1-and-1.
Well, with Paul George, I kind of get it because he's 30, so this might be his last big deal, and of all people, he knows one play could change your career. I mean, the dude literally broke his leg.
It was nasty.
So
yeah.
I get him, and I get him kind of going, all right, I'll just take as much as I can get, and then him and Russ just try to figure it out. And if you're a Thunder fan, I really don't know how good a news this is, because their payroll is astronomical, and they're not beating the Warriors, are they? I mean, they're not
beating the Warriors, and it's funny that they're willing to go this much over the cap now, because it's been told a million times, but they weren't willing to give James Harden the max back in the day, and it's kind of what ended up breaking up their big three. So now they're making up for their old mistakes. But
they passed up on a big three with 3 MVPs because it was going to make them pay $45 million in luxury tax.
Yeah.
And now they're paying over $100 million.
I think they would have taken on that extra $40 million or whatever it would have costed. Hey, by the way, do you know who Rachel Demita is?
Yeah.
Do you know who she's going out with now?
Who's that?
Andre Roberson.
Really?
Are you a Roberson or a Roberson guy?
Well,
what side of the fence is that?
I was Robertson, but I call him Roberson now because I just think
it doesn't matter. The guy, what does it matter what we call him now, because he's dating Rachel Demita.
Demita is beautiful, and she hoops.
Oh my gosh, she's been my IG crush for so long, and all of a sudden I see in one of her stories somebody who resembles Andre Roberson for a second, and I'm like, interesting. I go to his latest post, which was a while back actually, and I go to the comments, and everybody in this comment section, if you go to Andre Roberson's Instagram and just go look at any of his pictures now and go to the comment section, and they're all talking about Rachel. And if you go to her page, everybody's just talking about how she can shoot better than her boyfriend now.
She's got a better
and now
shot
she can yeah. But out of nowhere, Andre Roberson, you know, I know he had the bad injury last year, but the guy's winning right now.
Yeah, dude, I mean, if you're in Oklahoma City right now, you're just winning. I mean, you got Paul George to stay. You got
small market teams coming up.
That is one thing that was interesting is that a small market team, that's a big win for the Lakers last year wouldn't offer Paul. They tried to like really shortchange Indiana for Paul George.
Yeah.
They offered like Russell and Mozgov for like something terrible. And they're like, he's going to come in free agent either way. And what's his name? Presti made a ballsy move to go ahead and trade for him, and then they just spent this whole year. Now that he's staying at OKC and they're going to do that little thing instead of going to LA with LeBron. I hope that Nas concert was really good last night at the Russell Westbrook party. But
true that.
What do you think happens with Kawhi now?
He's going to get moved. I know the Spurs don't want to trade him to the Lakers, but I think they have the best package they could send that way.
Yeah.
If I was the Spurs, I would just beg for a combination of Kuzma and Ingram and maybe a sign and trade with Julius Randle, but I don't know what's going to happen. That's where he wants to go. Now I see rumors about Philadelphia sending a package, and if I was Kawhi, I'd re-sign with Philly. That's who I wanted LeBron to go to. I was hoping Philly was going to somehow be able to pull off LeBron and Kawhi. But
they
now
had
it looks
the ability to. I mean,
they definitely did, and apparently, Philly doesn't want to give up Markelle Fultz in a trade, but if they send Fultz and Saric and Covington and a first rounder for Kawhi, that might be pretty hard for San Antonio to pass up.
That's what I think. At the end of the day, like you said, I know LA doesn't want to trade Kawhi just for anything, or they don't want to trade Kawhi to LA in general. They want to get him to the East. But if you're LA, you get the best deal available. I mean, if you're San Antonio and you're Popovich, they're going to do whatever best for the team.
But Popovich, he can kind of be an asshole sometimes, and
he's on his way out probably.
And he's on his way out. The poor guy, his wife just passed away. Yeah. He's probably at a moment in his life right now where he just doesn't really care anymore. And if Kawhi is going to do it like this, then he's probably not going to send Kawhi where he wants.
You think it's just like, screw you, you're going to have to go. Which, if you're Kawhi, there's worse things than you have to go spend a year in Philly, and you'll probably make it to the finals if you go to Philly. The East is just, I mean,
if Boston sends me Jaylen Brown and the Kings first rounder next year and maybe a couple other assets, it's not like that's horrible. So if it's between that and the Lakers package and I'm San Antonio, I'm probably not going to make another Western team that much better by sending my best player that way. So, he might do it despite Kawhi a little bit, but also it is a good strategy not to send Kawhi to another Western team.
The only problem with I think you're right, and they should trade him East, and they probably will try to. But the problem is if Kawhi tells every Eastern team that I'm going to LA next year regardless, it's hard for you to, if you're Philly, it's hard. That's probably why they won't throw Fultz in there. But then again, Paul George said the same thing a year ago, and he's
exactly.
OKC.
And you forgot that Kawhi Leonard doesn't actually have the possibility of talking. He's some sort of alien that apparently just doesn't say words, because I don't remember the last time I ever heard anything come out of Kawhi's mouth. And
honestly, I can't remember the last time he said anything ever.
Yeah, you would think in like the most important decision he's making in his career, he'd probably just come out and say at least a word about it. But rumors are that his uncle is kind of controlling his life and telling kind of Kawhi what to do.
That's what made no sense to me is his whole, or at least his uncle's whole ploy is he wants him to go to a market where he can build his brand. And it's not like the Spurs have made him be quiet. It's just I think it's just Kawhi Leonard's it's his personality. He just doesn't talk.
Yeah, there's all these rumors about what Kawhi wants or the reason he wants out, or the other rumor was that San Antonio didn't give him, I guess the results he wanted on his injury, so he was looking for a doctor that would. I honestly think Kawhi is just a 25, 26-year-old dude who doesn't really want to live in San Antonio, and he probably wants to go to LA. He's from San Diego. That's where his family lives. And if I was Kawhi, I'd probably just come out and say San Antonio is really boring, and I'm 25.
Yeah, just be legitimate. Just be honest.
I just want to go live on the beach and play for the Lakers. And if LeBron's there, that's great. That's if he said that, I'd have a lot more respect for him than just staying quiet and letting all these reporters talk for him.
Yeah, because I just don't. The whole shoe thing makes no sense in building your brand. Because you look at like Paul George as one of the top selling shoes, and he's been in Indiana and Oklahoma City. If you're in the NBA, especially San Antonio is a team that everybody like respects. just be honest with us and go, I really just want to go live on the West Coast in LA and play for the Lakers, who I've always loved.
And be close to my family.
Yeah. And
I've been to San Antonio. San Antonio is a fine place, but if it was between that and LA, and I have as much money as Kawhi, I'm probably gonna want to go live in LA.
So I want to get real quick. We didn't record last week after the NBA draft, and me and my dad kind of talked a little today. As Mavs fans, we were pretty stoked about Landon Doncic, and you are a longtime Kings fan, correct?
Guilty.
So it's probably been tough ever since Robert Horry hit the shot back in the day.
For the NBA fans out there, there's a team in Sacramento. They're called the Kings. I don't know if you ever heard of them, but they're out there.
So what were your thoughts about about what the Kings did in the draft and passing up on Doncic to get Bagley? What would you think?
Oh man, well this one was really hard for me because as a Kings fan, I've gone through about everything you can, negative wise for a fan base, and we ended up getting the tied for the sixth worst record in the NBA this year, and we ended up in the lottery getting the second pick in the NBA draft, which is the highest pick the Kings have ever had since I've been alive. So this is a huge moment, and it just so happened to fall in a year where there are two bona fide can't pass up prospects with Ayton from Arizona and Luka, overseas. And, growing up watching Vlade and Peja for the Kings and Turkoglu, and now we have Vlade running our organization. Everything was kind of leaning towards Luka being the obvious pick at number 2, because Ayton's from Arizona. He went to school in Arizona, and he's probably going to get picked by Phoenix, So I watched more YouTube videos.
You watched all the EuroLeague?
I mean, just hours. I mean, I went back. I rewatched Real Madrid played OKC. They played the Thunder about 2 years ago, an exhibition game. And I wanted to watch how Luka did against Kevin Durant and Westbrook. I went back and watched his national team against Serbia because we had picked Bogdanovic.
Yeah.
And, I pretty much watched everything there is to watch on this guy. I've read everything there is to read on him. And then, a couple weeks leading up to the draft, you start hearing that the Kings are interested in Marvin Bagley. And I'm just praying it's smoke screens.
As a Kings fan, you're like, don't do this to me again. We finally got lucky.
Like, we're going to screw this up. Of course we are. So, fast forward to the draft. Ayton was picked first. Everybody kind of knew that was coming. And then all reports were Bagley is going to go to the Kings. And even to the very last second, I was hoping they were all just smoke screens. But, when Adam Silver said Marvin Bagley, I just kind of thought to myself, oh, great. I thought this guy was not going to be good. He can't play defense. He can't shoot. He can't pass. He's pretty much just an athletic guy who can dunk the ball and rebound decently. So
I think you're being a little – I mean, you're going pretty hard on him.
True. And I'm being a little hard on him. But in my head, imagine having, a crush on a girl for, so long. And then all of a sudden she dates not only one of your friends but the whole city of Dallas, and all your friends are Dallas Mavericks fans, and they're all going to date this girl that you've had a crush on and been into for so long.
And you really had a shot with her. And you really had a shot with her, and instead you decided to go with Marvin Bagley.
Not only did I have a shot with her, it would have been beneficial for her because the second pick's going to have more money than the Mavericks were when they got her. But yeah, anyways, I was bummed out. I was even more bummed out when the Mavericks got him because, like I said, it's not just another team got him. It's the team that a lot of my friends in the area that I live in, they're all going to get to root for this guy. And I think he's going to be amazing. I think he's already going to be probably one of the best passers in the NBA in just his first couple of years. He's going to have a lot of growing pains. When guys are that good of passers, he's a flashy passer. He's going to have a lot of really ugly turnovers. But what I like most about him is that, unlike a lot of kind of European prospects, the guy's not soft. He's not afraid of the moment. The dude wants the ball in his hands. And when you watch him, he really does have some James Harden in him, a lot of Brandon Roy in him. And the dude is 6'8" and can pretty much do everything. And plus his mom. Have you seen a picture of his mom?
Oh, I did see Iguodala tweet about his mom on draft night.
She is fine. Yeah, and Iguodala is already trying to slide in. So.
He's already trying to slide in the DMs on draft night. But I just don't understand, on all these NBA teams, it seemed like it's a consensus that the star, the player in this draft that can really be a bona fide star was Doncic. And his floor, I mentioned this to my dad on the pod either before or after this, but his floor is like a Hedo Turkoglu, which is a good career. But he has a ceiling of maybe being like a superstar, like one of the best in the league. And in today's game, there's nothing more important than a wing. A guy who's 6'8" can play the 3, 4, or even the 2. And and you're going to pass up 2 big guys go ahead of him. It just doesn't make sense to me. I get Ayton a little bit, I do, because he might be the guy that kind of changes the paradigm, and him and Embiid showing that there needs to be.
But like you said,
center.
I think Turkoglu is a good comp. I think Turkoglu is the floor, even though Turkoglu was doing PEDs like crazy back in the day during the Magic run. But I mean, Turkoglu right there. I mean, they went to the finals and he was their second best player, and I could see Luka being that guy. I think he fits in well there. I did see that they got DeAndre. I think it's funny. All these Mavericks fans are probably about to forgive everything that DeAndre Jordan did not too long ago.
It is funny. You mentioned the girl comparison with Luka. DeAndre Jordan's like the girl that we were all but dating, and then right at the last second she got back with her ex, and then now that her and her ex didn't work out and she got a divorce, she hit us back up, and of course we let her come right back in. We've been listening to Marvin's Room ever since, and now she hollered back at us.
Not only that, you gave her a 1-year deal for $24 million.
Which actually it behooves the Mavericks to do that because they don't have their pick. They traded it, and they want to be open in players in the free agency next year. So I get it.
Well, that means your girl's going to leave you again next year.
Well, I think if I wouldn't want to go long term with DeAndre. I mean, he is what he is. He's 30 years old. He's just an athletic rim protector and dunk. But I like the Mavericks going. I don't think Rick Carlisle could have handled another year of tanking. He probably would have had a heart attack. And plus, I'd rather, if you're going to have 2 young guys like Dennis Smith Jr. and Luka, let's not tank. Let's at least, even if it is 45 wins and we lose in the first round.
Yeah, I think Mavericks fans are going to be happy. I think the guy's going to be a stud. I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year or anything. Actually, I think my guy Bagley could hit.
Bagley's going to put up stats. If nothing else, he's going to go 20.
He's going to put up 10. Stats. Yeah, we're going to win 20 games next year, and he'll get Rookie of the Year. And and
then the Celtics will pick 3 with y'all's pick, and
right, yeah,
it's going to be
so depressing.
Yep,
so depressing.
There needs to be some kind of shift in the way they do the playoffs, right? I mean, all the best players, besides Kyrie, Giannis, and maybe Embiid, all the best players are in the West, and all the best teams are in the West. It just seems it needs to go 1-16. I feel like.
Before we discuss this, you brought up Giannis. Since we are all happy for the Mavericks fans and you guys getting Luka, I did just hear a story not too long ago that everybody in the Mavericks organization was ready to pick Giannis,
except
and Mark Cuban came in at the very last second and denied it. And,
so you're saying us Mav fans are a little too happy right now? You just had to throw.
No, I just had to bring you guys down a little bit. Just. You're feeling good about yourself, and I wanted to remind all the Mavericks fans that you guys could have had Giannis right now.
Yeah, I read something that everybody they had the pick ready to submit for Giannis, and then last second Mark Cuban's like, no, I don't want Giannis. He's unproven. I haven't seen enough film, and
yeah.
But we got Doncic. So
you guys got Doncic. Hey, also, as a Sadden Kings fan, since I rubbed that in your face, the Kings not only could have had Steph Curry. When we took Tyreek Evans, but we also could have had Kawhi Leonard or Klay Thompson when we took Jimmer Fredette, and that one really hurts bad because Jimmer's playing in China right now.
There's a lot of Kings things that you could that it's just ones that are still open, but that one is a tough one. There's probably no worse though than David Kahn for the Timberwolves passing up on Steph Curry not once but twice for 2 different point guards that are no longer on the team. That's tough.
What?
That's tough.
I thought Johnny Flynn was gonna be really good. I really did. I was on the Johnny Flynn bandwagon. I was like, that guy is going to be really good. And
I did like him in Syracuse, but man.
Oh, that's why I'm not a GM, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah, we all make bad.
Anyways, about what you're saying about the playoff seeding. You want a 1-16? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's the only logical thing because now we're going to have the 3 best teams in the NBA. Maybe the Celtics are probably still in there, but you have one of the Lakers. Rockets and Warriors aren't even going to make it to the conference finals, so it just seems odd that's the way it'll play out.
Yeah, it does seem a little odd. Bill Simmons has an idea of a all entertaining or an all entertainment tournament that basically you take all the lighter
What is it? The entertaining fun as hell tournament?
fun as hell, entertaining league or tournament, something like that. But anyways, he pretty much takes all of the teams that are not going to be in the playoffs, including what would be the 8 seeds, and they pretty much play in a tournament for the 2 winners that come out of that. So it kind of represent the 2 8 seeds on both sides. I don't mind that idea. I don't really want 82 games in the regular season. I think if we can get it closer to 70 and having some sort of mini tournament at the end of the year as like a play-in to the playoffs would be interesting.
Well, me and my dad had floated around the idea, and we've workshopped it through different. It's not us coming up with it. I've read different things on Reddit and probably some people on the Ringer, but similar to that tournament, except for you get all the teams that didn't make the playoffs and you play for the lottery. Instead of doing an NBA lottery, you have them all play, and the winner of the tournament gets the first pick in the draft. So it makes it to where, as the Kings organization, you never just try to bottom out. You always try to be the best team every single year.
It's interesting, but at the same time, say I have the 5th or 6th best team in the West, and I don't feel great about my chances in the playoffs. You're going to see teams that are pretty good tank to try to get in that tournament because then you're if you have the 5th best record in the West, you're going to win that tournament, and then you're going to just do it. You're going to lose on purpose so you can be able to be in that tournament so you can actually play for that number 1 spot.
And then the teams that really need the help never get that first pick. That was our one flaw was the 6, 7 seeds just go, instead of getting to the playoffs and getting bounced by the Rockets or Warriors in the first round, let me go get in this tournament.
With all of this being said, nothing really matters because Kevin Durant kind of ruined the NBA, and the Warriors are just going to win it again next year, aren't they?
Yeah, even with all this stuff happening, I thought the only way maybe Durant or the Warriors don't win it again this year is if the Sixers could pull off the Paul George,
Kawhi and LeBron.
Yeah, or either one actually. But yeah, the LeBron Kawhi is the one I really liked, and I want to see what LeBron does, and maybe we will see it with Lonzo Ball, but I kind of want to see how he plays with the point guard who's not just a shooting point guard. Because LeBron his 3-point shot's gotten better every year. I wonder if he plays a little more off the ball or if they just trade Lonzo for Kawhi. I'd be interested to see how he plays with that. But I think
if Kawhi gets there, I think they have a pretty good shot against the Warriors because LeBron, with the team that he just had, all these role players on the Lakers right now are better than all those guys on the Cavs. Maybe besides Kevin Love. I'm really impressed by Kuzma. I think Kuzma's going to be really good. Ingram, has all the potential in the world. And if they're able to maybe only get rid of 1 or 2 of those guys and get Kawhi on board, then I think they're going to be right there with Golden State and Houston in the standings, and they might have a shot. I know Golden State obviously is the best team on paper, and it seems like they're unbeatable. But every run eventually comes to an end, and those guys are eventually just going to get tired.
I mean, they were the Rockets were hamstring away from beating them this past year. I think if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, they probably beat them. But
they definitely beat
them. I think you're right. I want to see what the Lakers can do as far as who they have to trade for Kawhi if they do have to trade. Can they keep a combination of if they can keep Ingram somehow, that would be fantastic. But I don't see any way they keep Ingram. That's the thing they have to ship. But yeah, he's just what he's playing. What's around him is 10 times better now, and they actually have the freedom to, if they don't get Kawhi in a trade, they'll have cap space. They can kind of figure stuff out next summer, and there's going to be someone that comes to play with LeBron. I mean, you're gonna LA LeBron. I mean, there's going to be a star that goes and plays with him. It just makes sense.
They already got one, Lance Stevenson.
That's true. That was their big haul. They already got.
And they got JaVale.
Man, I just hate it. So we've talked about some
Lance Stevenson.
Some things that I can't really compare with the Mavs, but some things as a fan you've had to go through. I hate Lakers fans.
You guys just won a championship 10 years ago. The Mavericks fans. I feel so bad for you guys.
No, but my point is, I've seen a bunch of tweets about Lakers fans like, oh, we went through the dark times for this. They went through 4 years of a little bit of dark times, and now they've had 7 up. Like, these are all guys now that have worn a Laker jersey. LeBron, Magic, Kareem, Wilt, Kobe, Jerry West, Shaq. They've all worn a Laker jersey. The Lakers went through 3 years or 4 years of purgatory, and now they have a ton of young studs and LeBron freaking James. I don't want to hear any shit about
It's not fair. It's not fair.
It's just annoying. And then I did see something I thought you might find. Are you a Always Sunny fan?
Of course. Huge fan.
There's I was on Reddit, and apparently someone, I don't know who did this, but it is just fantastic. But it's LeBron has been dentist systeming the Cavs his whole career. And here's how they laid it out.
Explanation?
Oh, yeah, they laid it all out. So he demonstrated value by playing amazing basketball since his first game in the NBA. Then he engaged them physically by spending his first 7 years playing with them and taking them to their first finals. Then he nurtured their dependence by assembling a team that depended on him to be successful. Just look at how the same team was that won 60-plus games in 2009 after he left. They were a lottery team. Then he neglected them emotionally with the decision, inspired hope by coming back and winning their first championship, and now all that's left is to separate entirely, i.e. go to the Lakers.
Which he just did. That's perfect.
I don't know who did it, but
awesome.
It was great. For an Always Sunny fan, it killed me.
You know what I thought today?
What's
that's pretty interesting. Was that our boy Luke Walton and LeBron were taking the same draft. Now that'll be his coach.
I just saw. I wasn't sure if that was true or not. I saw it on Twitter by like a random account, and I was like, I need to look that up. That is nuts that they were both taken in the 2003 draft class. Another little interesting tidbit on LeBron's contract. So he finally, this is the longest contract he signed since the decision, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this contract runs up if he takes his player option after the 4th year. It'll end where he's a free agent the same year old Bronny Jr. could enter the league if they change the high school rules. And he's long talked about playing in the league.
Yeah,
I mean, it's happening.
He's going to the same team.
I don't know where it'll be. I don't think LeBron does. That's why he's like, I'll just be a free agent, and I don't care. At that point, he's not going to be washed. But yeah, there we go. For poor Sacramento fans, if y'all can win.
By then, we're going to have we're taking Bronny Jr. with our first pick, and then King James is going to come to Sacramento.
It just makes sense. King James come to the Kings. I like that. I like where we're going with this.
That's also another fun tidbit. His first game in the NBA was against Sacramento Kings, so it should be where he ends his career. Also, makes sense to me.
And King James. Wow, I think we figured something out here. Last thing before I let you go, do you keep up with soccer at all?
Like the World Cup?
A little bit, but mainly just I saw a tweet by a Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yeah.
And
of course.
He's been great ever since he got to LA. He's been his tweets are hilarious. His press conferences are great. And he fired out a tweet today after the LeBron decision, and he said it was a picture of him and a picture of LeBron in a Laker jersey. And it said, now LA has a god and a king. Zlatan welcomes at King James.
That's amazing.
Not only is he a god, but he refers to himself in third person too. I love.
Do you ever check out the ESPN body issue?
I haven't seen the new one that just came out, but I usually.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, for those of you out there that don't know, the ESPN every year does a body issue where they pretty much have a photo shoot of athletes or previous athletes who pose completely nude, but it's all very tasteful. Nothing's really shown. And it's pretty much just them in different poses of whatever sport they play.
Is it tasteful? I don't know if it's always tasteful, but it doesn't ever show anything.
Okay, they're not just flopping around, is what I'm saying.
True,
they're not just spread eagle. It's tasteful, all right? It's art. Anyways, our boy Zlatan he was one of the members of the newest edition, and the dude has crazy tattoos. His whole back is like a damn lion.
Really?
And his whole ass is tatted, like complete ass covering tattoos, like the most painful looking tattoos I've ever seen in my life.
I wonder if he was doing that all for hopes to get on the body issue, because that's never going to be. Well, I guess there's probably many people that have seen him naked, many women.
I was about to say more than we could probably imagine.
He does very well in that department.
Yeah.
But I think that real quick, another Skip Bayless was on fire today after the LeBron news, and my favorite tweet of his today was, if DeMarcus Cousins and Kawhi Leonard do join LeBron in LA, you have a volatile, tech-prone center and an injury-prone, quick-to-quit Leonard, and a LeBron who melted down in the 2011 finals and again in the last finals before overtime of Game 1. That's a lot of mental weakness on that roster. You just can't make up what Skip Bayless does.
Okay, real quick. Do you think he's serious with all of this stuff, or do you think it's just a character that he's made up now that he has to stick with forever?
I think he was somewhat serious, like back in when LeBron went to the Heat, and he got kind of when First Take blew up was him and Stephen A. kind of just bashing LeBron.
Right.
And he realized, I can make an entire career over just bashing LeBron, and now the stuff is so out there. I think there's no way it's all real. I think he just is coming up with the best thing.
He just knows it annoys people.
He purposely just like, how many people can I get to comment back on my tweets just saying F you, F you, F you over and over again.
Right. When I started watching him and Stephen A on First Take, it was probably around 2011, 2012.
Same.
And his thing was he hated LeBron, thought LeBron was soft, but his biggest defender was Tim Tebow playing quarterback.
Yeah.
And I always just thought about how do you think LeBron's a bad basketball player or soft when you're that passionate about thinking that Tim Tebow is an amazing quarterback? And that's kind of where it all started for me. I was like, this guy is a clown. Like, surely this is all just fake, and he doesn't really believe that. But I'll be damned, he's persistent. And to this day, after everything LeBron's done, he's still
doing it.
calling him soft, even till today. So
that's what he made his career on. And I remember those exact days watching First Take, and it was Tebow is great and LeBron is a quitter and trash. And ever since, Skip Bayless has stuck to his guns. And I'm telling you what. He's loyal. He's loyal to his takes, even if they do suck. He's loyal to them. All right, thanks to Brock Yates for that interview. All right, Pops, let's transition over to the part of the podcast where we just talk nonsense. So, a lot of times iTunes tries to make. I know you've mentioned before how annoying iTunes can be on your laptop or on your computer.
Yes.
And a lot of times they try to make iPhone and iTunes try to make things more convenient for you. And all it does is it just makes things 10 times more annoying. So what I'm referring to is when you get, I don't know if you remember or if you've noticed this, but like sometimes you'll get an update on, like they'll come out with a new iOS 11.011, whatever it is. And your phone will give you a notification that says, there's a new update available. Would you like to install it? And you say,
right.
It only tells me that. I swear to God, it only tells me that there's a new update and that I can install it when I'm like busy, when I'm at work. And I need to be using my phone for calls, and I don't have 20 minutes to set my phone down and plug it up and let it go. So,
right.
But it gives you that thing. It says you can say like install later, and then when you press install later, it says enter your passcode, and we will install it between 2 and 4 tonight when you're plugged up to the charger. So I say, okay, let's do it. Then never does it actually do it. The next day, it'll pop up again when I need my phone. It'll pop up, hey, there's a new version of iOS. Would you like to do it? I'm like, no. And it says, do you want to install later? And it just keeps going. It always tells me it'll do it between 2 and 4 if my phone's plugged up to a charger. And my phone is always plugged up to a charger between 2 and 4. So I don't know why it never does it, but it only reminds me every time that I'm busy and need my phone.
I got a question. What time are you at 2 to 4 a.m.? Where are you usually?
I'm usually at work, but I plug my phone up on the charger.
Okay. But it is that's what I was wondering because I want to tell you, mine works when I do that.
So maybe I'm the only. Well, I was wondering. My question was, am I the only one? Because it seems
I think you're the only one.
And I know my current work schedule does throw this off, and maybe I am. Maybe my phone's not on the charger between 2 and 4. But I remember before, it seemed like it never would do it. It seemed like it never would, and I just don't understand. It pisses me off. And then another thing iTunes does is it tries to bring up. It wants to bring up iTunes every time I plug my phone into I charge my phone on my computer sometimes because if I'm going to be on my computer, it's just convenient to have my phone right here and I can plug it up and I have it with me. But every time you plug your phone up to your computer, it tries to pull up iTunes. And I don't know why, but that's just the most frustrating thing in the world to me.
There's a setting you can hit that makes it not pull that up.
I tried to find it earlier today. I couldn't find it, and technology just got the best of me, and I quit. But that's my little Apple spill. For the most part, I mean, I'm sitting here on my MacBook and my iPhone, and I mean, I'm Apple everything, but just there's a few things that they do that just irks me. All right, that is Pocket giving me the cue that she's tired of hearing me rant about first world problems and what my iPhone does to bother me. So, speaking of iTunes, let's move on to what we're listening to. So, as always, we hit a what we're listening to, and we've done a lot of. I know me and you personally, since the last time we were on, we've done a lot of listening because we've been on a 10-hour road trip through the rain, and different stuff. So and then we had to fill some time with some other podcasts. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. I have two what we're listening to. One is what we listened to on the road trip, and we listened to a ton of John Mayer. specifically, the album I want to shout out is, I listened to it again today, but John Mayer Trio. That thing jams every time. And if you're a Lutheraner, you know when Gravity from John Mayer Trio comes on, you can't skip it. You can't skip Gravity. It's just
show me where the light is, baby.
That album with Steve Jordan and Pino Palladino, I mean, they are just jamming. That is one of my favorite listens to this day. I think if I were to, you like the question of if you get put on an island and you have 3 albums to pick. That's in my. I don't know what else is in it. Probably Third Eye Blind's album, but those are definitely in there. I love both of those.
Hey, hard to argue against that. That is, it is a great album. 3 musicians making incredible music.
I mean, it's good stuff. So in general, on our road trip, we did a lot of John Mayer listening to. But what do you have for what we're listening to? And I'll come back with the third one here in a sec.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of throw something out. It's not music this time, although we did listen to a lot of music. No doubt, a little shout out to some Third Eye Blind, John Mayer. We kind of did a lot of our covers versus originals that we're going to get around to at some point in time soon. But I have become somewhat of a podcast fan, and I listened to a podcast by Malcolm Gladwell. Some of you may know Malcolm Gladwell. He's an economist, author. From the university, he went to the University of Toronto. Is now living in New York City.
A cool dude. I mean,
But he's a cool dude. If you haven't read The Tipping Point or some of his books, you really should. But he has got a podcast series called Revisionist History, and what he does is he goes back and visits events that occurred in our past and tells you maybe what they mean in light of how we've reacted to those events. Well, one of these, it was called Free Brian Williams. And you may remember Brian Williams was the anchorman for, I think it was ABC, but maybe it was NBC. Okay. He was a very nice-looking, personable guy. I actually really enjoyed him. I was kind of into him or Tom Brokaw at the time. And I think he was a little younger than Tom Brokaw. But he was the one that was in a helicopter convoy in the Middle East somewhere. And he told the story, and each time it got better, and his role in the story became more involved to where by the end of it, he was in the chopper that took fire, that went down in a field, blah, 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 when in fact, he was in an aircraft 30 minutes behind the chopper that took fire. And what Gladwell, I don't want to completely ruin it, but what he's basically telling you through data and statistics is that your memory is not a good indicator of what the truth is, and you almost should not be even held accountable for it. And you very quickly, one thing they do, they call these flashbulb events, and a flashbulb event would be like 911. When the two planes
9/11
9/11 when the planes hit the World Trade Center. And if you ask people like 6-7 questions, where were you, who were you with, what time of day was it, blah blah blah, what did you do immediately after?
It's one of those events where you know exactly where you were when you saw it.
Exactly.
Right.
And so what they did is they asked people these series of questions the day after 9/11 occurred. They came back a year later and asked these people the same questions and found that upwards of 40 to 50% of the answers changed. They came and asked them these same questions 3 years later, and more answers had changed. They asked these same questions 10 years later, and up to 60% of the answers.
And there's no incentive for these people to lie. It's just...
Exactly. In fact, some of these people would say things like they would give handwritten accounts of what they did, and they would show it to these people, and they'd go, well, that's my handwriting, but I don't know why I wrote that because that's not the way it happened. Crazy stuff. And so I would urge all of you to go out and look up Malcolm Gladwell. I know I'm running long on this, and I'm sorry. But look up Malcolm Gladwell, Revisionist History, specifically the podcast entitled Free Brian Williams. Look that up. It's excellent listening. It opens your mind up to something that I certainly had not thought of before, and will change the way I think from now on. So
that's cool.
an amazing listen. Tammy and I listened to it. I'd listened to it on the way to the river, and I suggested that Tammy listen to it on the way back, and I think she felt as enlightened as I was. So anyway, sorry it went long, Kevo,
that's super interesting, and I want to, as you clearly, if you've made it this far in the podcast, you realize that we didn't have LJ with us, and I want to bring this up with LJ. I just think this is a really cool subject, and it's something that really kind of makes you think, and I want to see.
It's like a question.
I'd love to bounce this off LJ. Well, and I kind of, for whatever reason, I kind of put Chuck Klosterman and Gladwell similar. Just they both are really good at stimulating your brain and making you think.
Intellectual stimulation, yes.
So,
which is always good. So that was a little intellectual foreplay. Now go listen to the pod, and you will get the stimulation. And I would suggest, Kevin, you and LJ do that, and let's discuss that in a future pod.
We will. That'll come. That will definitely come because you've got me very intrigued with it. So okay. I want to now. I mentioned what we listened to on the road trip a little bit, but I want to mention now what I listened to actually earlier today. And I don't want to, I think I will kind of be stepping on your toes just a little bit because you mentioned that you'd probably listen to this soon. But I needed something to listen to while I was working out, and I put on Lenny Kravitz's Best Hits. Man, I didn't realize how much, I knew his big ones, Fly Away and American Woman, but just put it on. He just jams.
Just press play. He is so
good. It reminds me of Mom. I think Mom used to have like the best of Lenny Kravitz CD and used to jam it. And all the stuff just rocked. It was so good. And so.
Well, he's a soulful, but he rocks too. He's very
One
cool.
song, I think it was this one. It Ain't Over Till It's Over. Or maybe it was Are You Gonna Go My Way? I'm not sure which one it was, but he says like a line in there where he says, I'm old enough to see behind me, but I'm young enough to feel my soul. And I was like, whoa, okay, Lenny. Dropping some bombs on me. He just...
I don't remember that specific line, but it doesn't surprise me.
Just in general, the dude jams. It was some good music.
There is a YouTube segment, I will try to look it up, but where he's like a New Orleans guy or something like that. And he's just walking around in New Orleans and comes across a school. Have you seen this? It's a school band, and they're like out by Jackson Square in New Orleans or whatever, and they're playing a Lenny Kravitz song.
And he just walks by?
There's an electric guitar. He walks by, and he's like, oh, my God, that's my song. He picks up the electric guitar and just jams with the high school band. I will look that up and try to put that in the show. It is one of the coolest things.
We'll get that in the show notes. I'm dying to see it now, so when you send me that link, because that's cool. But, yeah, like you said, you're the one that – I already knew it, Jam, but you told me – I think it was like last week you said word for word was – Lenny Kravitz may be what we're listening to eventually because I need to listen to some good Lenny Kravitz. Yeah. And I was like, well, let me give Lenny Kravitz a try then. So I just put on This Is Lenny Kravitz on Spotify, and man, just let it go. And he's actually got a new album coming out soon.
Let it go. Hey, and I've heard the new song, and the first song on it's legit. What's it called? Yeah. It's a good song. So I think that will wrap us up for this week. You heard a little bit of LJ and Hannah while they're just living in paradise in Hawaii and Colorado. But we can't wait to have them both back. I hope they've had a great time. We can't wait to have them back next week. We'll get back on our normal schedule. Be on the lookout. There could be a little bonus, little snippet come out this week of just some after we've let the loss marinate a little bit from the College World Series. You might hear some Hog fans talk about it. But it's been a fun week, Dad. I'm glad you came on with me. Thank you, Brock, for jumping in and talking some free agency. Yep.
I tell you, speaking of free agency, the busiest man on the planet, Adrian Wojnarowski. He's been dropping Woj bombs left and right. It's nuts. Alrighty, that will do it for this week's episode. We missed being on last week, but we're glad to be back. LJ will be back with our normal show next week once they are done. Him and Hannah will be done snoozing and boozing over in Colorado and Hawaii. And as always, you can find us at JPP Pod on Twitter or on Facebook at Just Press Play Pod. And you know what to do. Just keep hitting that button, man. Thanks, guys.